Good evening and welcome to the September 19th, 2024 Northampton City Council meeting. I'm Alex Jarrett, as City Council President. I'll be presiding this evening along with Vice President Rachel Maori. This meeting and all participating in person and on Zoom will be audio and video recorded. The meeting can also be watched on Comcast Channel 15 or by streaming on Northampton Open Media's YouTube channel. Now call the City Council to order. Can you take the roll, please?
Sure. Councillor Dobbs.
Here.
Councillor Elkins. Not present. Councillor Jarrett.
Here.
Councillor Clemmer.
Here.
Councillor Labarge.
Here.
Councillor Maori.
Here.
Councillor Moulton.
Here.
Councillor Perry.
Oh, he is actually just joining via Zoom.
Okay, so I'm going to count him as present since we see him, even though he's not yet a co-host, so he can't respond. And Councillor Rothenberg is not present. So, Council President, you have a quorum.
Okay, thanks. Tonight's highlights include a resolution declaring Northampton a sanctuary city for transgender and gender non-conforming people. Or there's a new title, right? Gender diverse people. And a resolution in support of equitable school funding. 4 poll petitions, financial orders, including those related to parking fees, CPA funds, and fire department gift funds, and an update to an order of taking for the Rocky Hill Greenway. So, before we do public comment, we have 4 public hearings. The first is a public hearing on 24.109 National Grid poll petition for Hatfield Street. And this is a petition to install one singly owned pole on Hatfield Street, 750 feet north of the center line of the intersection of Cook Avenue. Could I have a motion to open the public hearing?
Move to open the public hearing.
Second.
Motion made by Councillor Labarge and seconded by Councillor Maori. And hang on just a second. Okay, we do have Garrick. Garrick is with us. Welcome, Garrick Perry. So we need to do a roll call on, is there any discussion? Okay, a roll call, please, on opening the public hearing.
Councillor Dobbs.
Yes.
Councillor Jarrett.
Yes.
Councillor Clemmer.
Yes.
Councillor Labarge.
Yes.
Councillor Maori.
Yes.
Councillor Moulton.
Yes.
And Councillor Perry.
Yes.
Okay, the public hearing is now opened. And do we have a representative from National Grid present?
Do you see Lisa Jasinski there?
There, yep, there she is.
Good evening, members of the council.
Good evening.
Lisa Jasinski with National Grid. The first hearing tonight, that is on Hatfield Street, that's for a reconductoring job that we're doing. It is just to bring reliability to that area and be able to supply everybody with their electric needs these days. That particular pole is going to be a place where we need to anchor what we call Hendrix. It's a very heavy cable, and we need a little extra beef when we anchor that.
Thank you. And are there any DPW concerns? Nope, I don't see any conflicts. Is there anyone else who would like to speak to this petition? Okay, seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Well, can I ask a question?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. This is my ward, so I just want to be clear in case I get a question about this. It's not for new service. Is that correct?
No, it's not for like a particular news service, as in like a company or a house or whatever. We have to reconductor that whole area, actually mostly up Bridge Road.
So it's supporting existing service.
That's correct.
Thank you.
The wire size changes and it's heavier, so that's why it's needed.
Any other questions or folks would like to speak? Motion, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
To close.
Second.
Motion made by Councillor Labarge and seconded by Councillor Moulton to close the public hearing on 24.109. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Counselor Jarrett,
Yes.
Counselor Clemmer,
Yes.
Counselor Labarge.
Yes.
Counselor Maori,
Yes.
Counselor Moulton,
Yes.
and Counselor Perry. Whoops.
Yes.
And Counselor Dobbs.
Yes.
Okay, all of these items will appear on the consent agenda later to vote on them. So the next one, just in time, a public hearing on 24.129 National Grid / Verizon poll petition for Garfield Avenue. This is to relocate one jointly owned pole on Garfield Avenue. And I'd entertain a motion to open this public hearing.
Make a motion to open it. Second.
Motion made by Counselor Clemmer and seconded by Counselor Labarge. And is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Counselor Clemmer,
Yes.
Counselor Labarge,
Yes.
Counselor Maori,
Yes.
Counselor Moulton,
Yes.
Counselor Perry. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Oh, he is here. Okay, Counselor Dobbs
Yes.
and Counselor Jarrett.
Yes. The public hearing is open. Lisa, would you like to speak to this?
Yes, this is pretty simple. This is Garfield Street, and it's just pole number 5. It's moving, I think it's about 5 feet, maybe 6. And it's just so that it won't interfere with the 2 new driveways that are going in. It's really going to be placed right between them.
And just to be clear, it's Garfield Avenue, right?
That's Garfield Avenue, correct?
Right, okay, because there's another, Garfield Street is right next to it, but a different street.
That's correct. There'll be a hearing coming up for that as well.
Okay.
Not tonight.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any questions from counselors, or would anyone else from the public like to speak to this matter?
Can I also add, it actually benefits the house across the street. It's a more direct route for their overhead service, so it'll take it out of the trees a little bit as well.
Thank you. Okay, seeing none, I would entertain a motion to close this public hearing.
Second.
Motion made by Counselor Labarge and seconded by Counselor Maori. Any discussion on closing the public hearing? Okay, roll call, please.
Counselor Labarge,
Yes.
Counselor Maori,
Yes.
Counselor Moulton.
Yes.
Counselor Perry,
Yes.
Counselor Dobbs,
Yes.
Counselor Jarrett,
Yes.
and Counselor Clemmer.
Yes.
Okay, the public hearing is now closed. Unfortunately, we must now wait 1 minute because the next hearing can't start until 6:40 p.m.
Where's your ukulele?
I know. Are there any songs? We could do some announcements if anyone has some.
Don't we have more to do here yet?
We do, but we have to wait, and it's very likely with the next one we'll have to wait too. A little too efficient.
The part next time.
Right.
Deb, what did you say the new name for your resolution is?
It's now 6:40 p.m., so we can start a public hearing on 24.130 National Grid Verizon poll petition for Turkey Hill Road. This is to install one jointly owned pole on Turkey Hill Road, 1,556 feet west of the center line of the intersection of Sylvester Road. Entertain a motion to open this public
Make a
hearing.
motion to open. Second.
Motion made by Counselor Labarge and seconded by Counselor Dobbs to open. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Counselor Maori,
Yes.
Counselor Moulton,
Yes.
Counselor Perry,
Yes.
Counselor Dobbs,
Yes.
Counselor Jarrett,
Yes.
Counselor Clemmer,
Yes.
and Counselor Labarge.
Yes.
Okay, the public hearing is now open. Lisa, would you like to speak to this?
Sure. This is just to correct a very long span. Typical spans between our wires, especially these days with the wire being as heavy as it is, it's about 150 feet, and this span is about 300 feet, so I'm just splitting that in half.
Great, thank you. Questions from counselors?
Yes.
Counselor Labarge.
I have a question. I went over by the intersection twice, and I was having difficulties trying to understand it. So I said, thank God for my husband, because he came with me for the second time. So, but anyways, but there are new homes being built up there. Is this the reasons why we're doing this or not?
Well, there's actually, what brought me out here to begin with is that we have a number of old poles and they're in really bad shape. And when I found these two poles in particular, it was a really long span between it, just warrants it. Where I'm placing this pole should not interfere with anybody on the street.
Oh, good. Thank you. I'm glad to hear that.
Okay.
Counselor Maori.
Good evening, Lisa. I have a question about the poles, and are you going to be taking down any limbs or trees? We've had issues with limbs or trees that are on National Grid property on that road, and I just want to know if it's going to impact trees or limbs.
No, it is a pretty wooded section. There's a long driveway right in that area, but when you go down this, I'm coming across the street from an existing pole, and that helps avoid a lot of trimming. And then it will continue up to another pole on the same side. There might be some branches, but it was not much at all.
Okay, thank you.
I have one more question.
Counselor Labarge.
Yes, I want to thank you and the team anyways, because we did have a resident there who was very concerned about the top part of Turkey Hill Road and medically had cancer. Very concerned about it, and I think you handled it very, very well, and I appreciate that.
Thank you, Marianne.
Okay, we'll go to members of the public. Dave Gorin, if you could state your name and city or town for the public record.
Sure, Dave Gorin in Florence. I guess I'm a resident of Turkey Hill Road, so my question is just the number of feet west of the intersection. I was curious if you could pinpoint that as across from the driveways of these house numbers. Like, I was just trying to get a sense of the exact location on my street.
Dave, did it by chance say the pole number by chance? I'm with you on your notes. Did you see the pole number?
I'm sure it's there. Hold on just a second. My spouse is running around behind me and grabbing the card.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Is this your son's first public hearing?
It is. So we're very excited about being on camera. Actually, it does not say the pole. It just says. Yeah.
I think it's number 7-50.
That's what I thought.
That sounds
Right.
correct.
Right.
So that's really the big indicator. I sometimes if there's a house right in front of it, I'll put that in there, but there was not a house in front of it.
Okay.
But it will be really right between poles 7 and 8, and it will be on the same side of the road as pole 8.
Okay. So I can go down there and take a look, essentially.
You could, and you would, like, even halfway between them, if sometimes stakes get, hit, they get knocked out, and it's really right between the two.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
Would anyone else like to speak to this petition? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Make a motion to close the hearing.
Motion made by Counselor Moulton, and would you like to second it, Counselor
Yes.
Labarge? Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Counselor Moulton.
Yes.
Counselor Perry.
Yes.
Counselor Dobbs.
Yes.
Counselor Jarrett.
Yes.
Counselor Clemmer.
Yes.
Counselor Labarge.
Yes.
And Counselor Maori.
Yes.
So that brings us to the fourth and last, the public hearing on 24.131, the National Grid poll petition for Conn Street. This is to install a singly owned pole on Conn Street, 155 feet north of the center line of the intersection of Conn Street and Pleasant Street, for EV service to number 5 Fulton Avenue. Entertain a motion to open the hearing.
I make a motion to open.
Second.
Motion made by Counselor Clemmer and seconded by Counselor Moulton to open. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Counselor Perry.
Yes.
Counselor Dobbs.
Yes.
Counselor Jarrett.
Yes.
Counselor Clemmer.
Yes.
Counselor Labarge.
Yes.
Counselor Maori.
Yes.
And Counselor Moulton.
Yes.
Public hearing is now open. Lisa?
Hello, this is the old block where Pleasant Journey Auto, I think it's Pleasant Journey Auto was, and they are putting in high-speed EV chargers, and with that, they need a 277 480 three-phase pad-mounted transformer, and in order to get them there, the three-phase power is on Con Street. It's not ideal because a part of it is in the sidewalk, as are all the poles along there. And the one requirement that was that there was 3.5 feet beyond this pole that was still usable. It sits partially on the property, partially in order to keep in line with the existing wires, so we don't need extra guys or anchors. It will sit just how the other poles are sitting.
Okay, thank you for that.
Sure.
Are there any questions, or are there any members of the public like to speak? Okay, seeing none, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Dubs, seconded by Councilor Clemmer. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Counselor Dubs.
Yes.
Counselor Jarrett.
Yes.
Counselor Clemmer.
Yes.
Counselor Labarge.
Yes.
Counselor Maori.
Yes.
Counselor Moulton.
Yes.
And Counselor Carey.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much, Lisa.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
You too. Yep. We got through it. And that brings us next to public comment. So if you wish to make a public comment, you can sign up at the sheet at the podium. If you're on Zoom, you can use the raise hand feature, and the raise hand feature is in the bottom menu bar. If you're calling in by phone, you can raise your hand by hitting *9. If you are having trouble raising your virtual hand, you can turn on your video and physically raise your hand. If you want to submit a written public comment, you can email it to citycouncil@northamptonma.gov. It will be sent to all the councilors and will be part of the public record. So I'm going to alternate between people in the room and people who are on Zoom. And before you begin, please state your name and your city or town. To ensure everyone has an equal opportunity to speak, the council limits comments to a maximum of 2 minutes. After 2 minutes, I'll ask you to please finish your sentence. And according to council rules, we don't respond during public comment. It is your time to speak. Our rules also state that councilors and members of the public shall conduct themselves with civility and respect at all times. Your protected speech is a constitutional right, and one we ask you to wield with consideration and respect for all, and recognition that the public space that grants you that freedom is shared equally by everyone. You can speak on any topic. Doesn't need to be an item on the agenda, and all comments are to be directed to the council. So we'll start in the room. Marielle. Your name and city or town, please. And is it the green light on there?
It is.
Okay.
Good evening. I'm Marielle Addis, and I live in Florence, and I am a transgender woman. Actually, I began my transition from male to female in 2016. It was the last year of the Obama administration, and the word on the street for trans folks was, get your paperwork done. Driver's licenses, passports, birth certificates, and whatnot. And just in case President Trump won the election, which of course he did. Personally, the election or the Trump administration didn't personally impact me greatly. I wouldn't say so much for people that were in the military that happen to be transgender. But at this current point, I'm very concerned about the status of trans people in this country, and as such, I support this resolution for the sanctuary city for transgender or gender diverse people in Northampton. I think it's a wonderful, wonderful thing.
Thank you. We're going to go now to folks on Zoom, and the first is Benjamin Spencer. Your name and city or town.
Yep, so my name is Benjamin Spencer, and I live on Rust Avenue in Northampton. I'm here tonight to invite you all to a couple of upcoming events. One of them is hosted by a group I'm in that is the Village Hill Preservation Society. We're going to have our second Picture Main Street community discussion at the Forbes Library in the community room. And that's going to be on Saturday, September 28th from 10 in the morning until 11:30. We've done one already. It was really quite fun, and I think people really benefited from it, and kind of hoping to, bring in some new folks. If you all would like to help put the word out that this is something that's happening, I would really appreciate it. And then the following day, the Strong Towns Northampton group is going to do our second walk and talk up Main Street, looking at the plans and being in the actual physical space. We did that about a month ago. There's, in both cases, about 25 people in attendance, and it was a really rewarding experience as well. So just like to invite you all to attend, and please help spread the word that this is something that's happening. That's going to be on Sunday, September 29th at noon. We're going to meet at the gazebo at Historic Northampton, and then we're going to head up Main Street from there. So thank you.
Thank you. Next in the room, Scotia. Your name and city or town, please.
Sure. My name is Scotia McIlroy. I live in Northampton, Massachusetts. I'm a resident here. I was born and raised in Northampton. This is in regards to Rachel Maiori's resolution on transgender and gender diverse healthcare. I presented Councilmember Rachel Maiori with a transgender healthcare sanctuary resolution template earlier this summer. As I had searched Northampton City documents and ordinances in this regard and found very little. In that case, I reached out to several council members from Ithaca, New York, and Sacramento, California, who had passed similar resolutions. Both graciously provided me with a basic template used for towns and cities across the states, including New York City, Ithaca, Kansas City, Missouri, Sacramento, and San Francisco, California, and just recently Santa Cruz, California. I'm grateful for my hometown of Northampton may follow these cities' leads in providing health care rights for this population. I'm a transgender woman. I'm also a registered nurse who works in psychiatric emergency medicine in an emergency department. I frequently assess transgender and gender diverse people, children and adults, such as a 12-year-old trans boy who has felt suicidal after his unsupportive father called him an abomination from God. He took a bus by himself to come to my emergency department. The child had no transgender or psychiatric inclusive care. Sadly, these are not unusual cases that I encounter as a clinical provider. So certain political entities are hell-bent on taking away this nascent health care rights that trans people and gender nonconforming people have. There are documented cases of families uprooting their lives, moving from one state to another to escape persecution from bans on gender-affirming health care for their children. There are cases of state attorney generals seeking data from national organizations such as PFLAG on transgender health care in other states. Alarmingly, this political overreach could happen in Northampton. This resolution, while non-binding, will assist layer of health care protection for Commonwealth gender non-conforming people. Please vote yes.
Thank you. Next on Zoom is Jesus. Your name and city or town, please.
Can you hear me all right?
We can. Welcome.
My name is Jesus Leyva, and I'm from Greenfield, Massachusetts. Formerly lived in Northampton. Good evening, counselors. When I still lived in Northampton in 2010, once again we were in the middle of a difficult public conversation about school funding. Then Mayor Claire Higgins attempted to explain the state's role in Northampton school funding to an anxious public, with rumors swirling around of the inevitable closure of one of our elementary schools. Mayor Higgins hosted these public conversations at each of the 4 elementary schools. I lived in Ward 3, so I went to the meeting at Bridge Street School. The perennial suggestion to look at Smith College's tax exemption came up. When the mayor brought up declining enrollment as one of the reasons for less state aid, one woman made the colorful suggestion people should start getting to making babies. More conversations would follow, including a community discussion group at the middle school where we all sat in chairs in a large circle, and then Senator Stan Rosenberg was explaining all of the different exemptions corporations had at the state level that reduced state revenue for funding, including exemptions for the sale of airplanes and airplane parts and filming in Massachusetts. Eventually, we joined Amherst in sending a few buses of Northampton and Amherst residents to Boston during the summer to advocate for more equitable funding. But the reality of state advocacy gave way to fear, and instead of continuing that advocacy, Northampton's school funding advocates would turn to an override. Northampton would also take other steps like creating a fiscal stability plan, which included joining the state's group insurance commission to try and reduce the cost of health benefits for employees to the city. When I moved to Greenfield, it turns out they were having the same conversation about school funding and the role of the state. Then Mayor Martin had actually petitioned the state auditor's office for unreimbursed expenses for various unfunded educational mandates. In one particularly bad year, the health insurance of school employees increased by over $1 million. The state's total funding increase in Chapter 78 for that same year to Greenfield was less than $60,000. But unlike Northampton, the conversation was not about an override, it was instead about what to cut to keep the schools going. This year,
That was time. If you could finish your sentence.
I understand the inclination to wait and see what others do before expressing your support, but this has been part of the public agenda in Northampton before. Don't wait and see. Act to support funding advocacy for your school district and for Northampton.
Thank you. Next in the room is Margot.
Hello, everyone. Oops, how are we doing? My name is Margot Anderson. I'm a resident of East Hampton and a 20-year resident of Northampton from 1991 to 2011. I'm here in support of the resolution that I learned this evening was originally suggested by, is it Scotia? Is that right? And I wanted to amplify a point that Marielle made this evening in talking about sort of the tides and the currents politically, nationally in this country. I was a resident from 1991 to 2011 presenting as male, and I transitioned after a lifelong struggle with gender dysphoria in 2021 to 22. I saw kind of a window of opportunity, essentially, that it was a very scary time to be trans and gender non-conforming and gender diverse or whatever during the difficult years of 2017 to end of 2020, and I think it's important that we recognize that although this is a small town, it can make a very big statement. And it is up to sometimes small governments to make these kind of big statements. And I think it carries a lot of weight nationally to have cities like Ithaca, like Sacramento, and others to be joining that company and saying at a national level where people are paying attention, you know, this is a very serious issue, and these are people who just want to live their lives. It is a very positive statement. It says a lot about the community that you know presents this to the to the community, but also in a larger extent to the country, or at least to the state. And while there are statewide protections that we can be grateful for in the state of Massachusetts, it is nevertheless significant and important that a municipality is developing this. And so I want to urge, for that reason, your support of this measure. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on Zoom is John. John, your name and city or town, please.
Hi, my name is John. I am from Northampton, or not from Northampton, but I'm a resident of Northampton, Massachusetts. I just wanted to express my support for the proposed resolution to declare Northampton a sanctuary city for transgender and gender nonconforming people. I've lived in quite a few places, and I've left Northampton, and I came back to Northampton because it's a very accepting and open community for the most part. I know it's not perfect or anything, but I think we have an opportunity to stand out as a community and make a statement on a state and a national level that we support everyone and give them a place where they feel included and safe. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. We have one more hand on Zoom. Is there anyone else in the room who would like to speak?
Yes.
Come on up.
Sorry, I didn't know you started at 6:30. Claudia Lefko, 40 Valley Street, Northampton. I've walked here tonight to speak to you about sidewalks. It seems insignificant given the ongoing genocide in Gaza and the occupied West Bank, where more than 44,000 Palestinians have died, and insignificant when their entire infrastructure has been destroyed, but nonetheless, here I am. I live in one of the oldest neighborhoods on one of the last streets in the city on the edge of the meadows. We're a dense, low-income neighborhood, a popular walking route. There's a family daycare program on Hockenham Road and New Village, an infant through preschool child care program on Henry Street. We're 0.8 miles from Bridge Street School, just under 1 mile for the required bump up on the sidewalk priority list. I've been at 40 Valley Street for more than 40 years. Neighbors, homeowners, and renters alike have been engaged by our location. It feels rural, but we're downtown. Given the demographics I listed above, we see infill as a potential danger. We've been fierce advocates for ourselves, organizing working groups, committees to address challenges and problems, and we've tried unsuccessfully, I'm sorry to say, to engage with the city. We're in a Dickensian situation, our own Bleak Street, jaundice versus jaundice, decades-long battle to get the city to improve walkability in our neighborhood. Walkability being, improving the street, calming traffic, and improving sidewalks, which are crumbling at best and in the worst cases, non-existent. This is part of an email posted on our listserv last week. My mother returned from 19 days of ER hospital rehab yesterday after taking a spill on Holyoke Street near the intersection with Williams. My mother's wobbliness is no doubt a main factor, but the uneven, narrow, chipped with missing chunk sidewalk did not help her regain her balance. Our first traffic calming committee met for 3 years, from 2005 to 2008. The result was a few too low to slow traffic bumps. The second committee, 10 years later, was also unsuccessful. I'm not sure, this is my last paragraph, I'm not sure where to turn on this other than to all of you, because it seems there needs to be some accountability when the city at large seems so unwilling to engage with a neighborhood that's been so willing to do the work and try to engage with you. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go next to Zoom. Is it Freya?
Yeah, hi, my name is Freya Jocelyn. I've lived in Northampton for about 15 years. My 13-year-old daughter is transgender, and about a year ago, I met some other parents of transgender children in our area, and we started to organize ourselves to meet the need of all of these other families and individuals from states with these hateful laws who are seeking refuge in states like ours, and in Western Mass in particular. States like Florida, Texas, Ohio, I'm in touch with people in these states who are eager to move here. They would be considered by the United Nations to be internally displaced persons. And they recognize Massachusetts because of some of our laws, and Western Mass for being culturally inclusive and gender diverse. But I want to be able to assure these folks who are making this huge taking this chance in their lives, uprooting themselves and resettling in a new community, that we really are a safe place for them, and that they can, count on us to keep their medical records private and all of those things that the resolution would entail. So I'm here to support that resolution. I want to be able to assure my own daughter that she is safe here in her community, and more, this threat is just increasing everywhere, and so I really think this is the time right now that we need to take this stand and do everything we can, such as pass this kind of resolution and hopefully an ordinance, to put in place even more protections. We can't just stand by and watch what's happening to our children and adults who are transgender and gender diverse. So I urge you to take this action. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the room who'd like to speak? Come on up, and your name and city or town, please.
My name is Stacy Abel. I used to go by Nico, but I changed my name recently. I am a trans girl, and I think I am from Northampton. I was born in New York, and I think that Northampton is a safe place for trans kids and adults, and I encourage you to say yes to the decision.
Thank you. Next on Zoom is Mary. Your name and city or town, please. Are you able to unmute? Okay, we will come back to you. And we'll go on to the next person. Maritha?
Yes, hi. I hope everyone is doing well this evening. I am currently in Sunderland, and I am in the LGBTQ+2 community, and I really would like to say I applaud the effort of Councilor Maori about putting this resolution forward. However, in our schools, without proper funding, we don't have, let me just tell you, in the last 3 days, I have heard students misgender intentionally, make fun of people in a way that is definitely not okay for their either their gender or being non-binary or being just a part of the LGBTQ+2 community. And as an adult, I don't feel safe with some of the things that I hear. So when I think about a sanctuary city and being safe, it is a place where we have enough staff in our schools to protect the students who hear such horrible things. We have guidance counselors who can handle these things. And we have the school community who respects differences. Teachers do not talk about this. Teachers do not stop it when it happens. And so, while I would love to be considered a sanctuary city for transgender youth and adults, we're not there yet. We have not put into place those things that will keep those kids safe in schools. They won't have to hear about the stuff that I hear about all the time, every day, from 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. So I applaud it. I think that is where we need to go, but we are not there. Our curriculum does not reflect it. And so
that was time. If you could finish your sentence.
Yep, I will finish. For when you bring people in or want people to come because of who they are, then it really does need to be safe. And right now, currently, it's not. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else in the room like to speak? Come on up. Your name and city or town, please.
Hi, my name's Morgan Aronson. I'm a former resident of Northampton, but currently I'm residing in South Deerfield. I am a healthcare provider across the Pioneer Valley, primarily in sexual reproductive health and trans and gender nonconforming care. And the thing that I hear a lot is, oh, what brought you to the city, especially when they have a phone number that's out of state, and they say, oh, well, I heard Northampton's so welcoming, so I moved here. This is why I live here. And that's true a lot of the time. But what I hear immediately following that is, I haven't received health care in blank amount of years. And sometimes it's 10, 20, 30, 40 years because they are afraid to receive health care because of their gender identity, because of their trans identity, because of their family, because of however their identity brings them into the world. And passing a resolution that allows people to feel safe, they are afraid. I hear consistently, are you going to share my data? Where is this data going to go? I'm afraid to tell you the truth. Because what if you share my data? What does that mean politically? What does that mean? Can I still own my house if I tell you certain things during healthcare? Because I don't feel safe enough to be able to do that. And I moved from Florida, from Texas, from the South, from somewhere where it wasn't safe, where their data was shared. And so, well, yes, Northampton is generally pretty darn safe. It is. And it's a reason why I live here too, in the Pioneer Valley. For a lot of folks, they do not trust it. And passing a resolution that says you can trust that when you are here, we will protect you. We honor that you are a whole entire human being and you deserve the exact same rights. You deserve healthcare, the exact same healthcare everybody else gets to get. And you don't have to walk in and wonder whether or not your private information is going to get shared. Imagine a child needing to think about that. I have young people who come to me and say, I can't tell you, because what if this gets out? I won't get into college. I can't grow up. So I implore you to please pass this resolution because it actually makes a massive difference, and I see it literally every single day. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Come on up.
Hi, all. So, I guess also to piggyback as also a healthcare person.
Sorry, your name and city or town, please.
Right. Sorry. Thank you. Allison Landon. I am a resident of Northampton. I, like many others, I'm a trans woman. I moved to Northampton because I had heard and witnessed myself that it was significantly safer than most other places, particularly the place I had lived before. I'm also a healthcare person, specifically working with trans and non-binary people. Also a lot of children. And to say that we kind of been using the phrase domestic refugee to refer to a lot of the individuals coming from the rest of the country to this area because they feel unsafe in other states. Notably, I'm thinking in 2022, the Texas Attorney General was caught requesting data on anyone who had requested to have their gender marker changed on their state IDs. And there was no official word on what they were intending to do with that data. Even now, it's being advised, and there are, it's not just my own experience talking with people, but there are other articles where you can find similar stories of people who are scared of what's going to happen with their data, who are scared to even apply because they're being told by the probate judge not to do so, because the judge isn't sure what's going to happen with that data. We have 16 states now with specifically anti-trans legislation, specifically aimed at making our lives harder and picking away at our civil rights. I'm not sure that it's really going to change much nationally if Northampton, as a little town, decides that it's going to be a sanctuary city, right? But these things spread, and they often spread really quickly, as one often hears, I guess, in politics in general, like things don't start at the presidential side, Congress, and come down. It goes up. So I think Northampton making sort of that resolution would probably have unforeseeable impacts on our community and our state moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on Zoom is James. James, your name and city or town, please.
Good evening, everybody. My name is James Schultes. I use he and they pronouns. I'm a former resident of Northampton, residing in Greenfield, and I'm also the co-director of Translate Gender, which is a trans-led community nonprofit operating right here in Northampton and serving youth and families from across Western Mass. First, I want to thank the counselors and community for bringing this initiative forward, this resolution to declare Northampton a sanctuary city for trans and gender expansive people. As a trans person myself, and as a representative of a lot of families who are connected to our programs and services, we support this resolution. We urge the council to vote yes. We work with over 300 plus families that have trans and gender expansive young people. Many of them live and work and go to school right here in Northampton. And we need spaces that are accessible, that are affirming, that are safe, and also to be able to access healthcare easily and without fear. A few folks that were here tonight talked about their personal accounts of life-saving medical interventions, of having affirming providers. Many of those providers were also trans and gender expansive themselves, which is amazing. We need that, and we also need more. So while I urge the council to vote yes, I also urge the council and community to consider what additional supports could be extended to trans people in our areas, especially Black and brown trans femme people, to fund and uplift initiatives and programs that help families and individuals thrive and stay alive, to ensure our schools can explicitly support queer and trans students and educators with not just a policy, but consistent action and funding, and where we can have opportunities to bring joy and celebrate each other. As another speaker shared, we're not there yet, and we've got more work to do, so let's do it. Thanks for your time tonight and your efforts to move this resolution forward.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the room who'd like to speak? Your name and city or town, please.
Hi, my name is Elon Abril. I'm formerly in Northampton, currently living in Holyoke, and I'm the parent and caregiver to the very proud parent and caregiver to a trans child who spoke earlier. And I wanted to, well, first say that I really support and fully endorse all the comments from my previous comrades who've spoken in support of the sorry, I'm blanking, of the resolution. Thank you. And I wanted to just add to that, I'm a cultural anthropologist, and I've been teaching at the college level for about 16 years, and many of my courses focus on social justice and social movements and gender and sexuality. And I think that this is really important and significant in its contribution to cultural change in a way that might not be immediately apparent, but this is the kind of pebble that creates the ripples that turn into a tsunami. And so I think it's really important to pass the resolution for that reason, as well as all the ones that everybody else has said. Thanks.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak? Okay, seeing none, thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Next, we have announcements from councilors and the mayor. Councilor Labarge.
Thank you. I just want to announce, I'm City Councilor Mary Ann Labarge, and both I and Scott Kiter are inviting you to an upcoming meeting to discuss the planned reuse and redevelopment of the property. We're located at 1010 Ryan Road in Florence, Mass. This is in Ward 6. The meeting will be held on Tuesday, September 24th at 6:00 p.m. at Ryan Road School in the gymnasium. This public hearing is for residents to ask any questions they may have about the project. Your voice is an important factor as we finalize the design and proceed to presenting the project to the City of Northampton Planning Board. Carol Lemish, Director of Planning and Sustainability, will be attending this meeting. Formerly used as a gravel pit by Wheeler Sand and Gravel, a development group received city approval to construct a marijuana cultivation facility. However, that project did not come forth. The land was offered for sale early this year. The purpose of this meeting will be to learn more about our plans for the site, to include cleaning and repurposing the site, deeding additional open space to the City of Northampton for public enjoyment, construction of a new parking area for recreation and public use, the construction of new townhouse-style apartments. They will not be affordable. There will be 16 of them in 2 buildings. Restoring and utilizing a previously neglected site for its highest and best use. Recycling existing piles of material at specific times of intervals. And that was a question of great concern that I have and many other people because of the problems that we had when they were at the Willards gravel pit of processing materials, and because of the odors and the loud noise every day, 6 days a week sometimes. So I talked with the owner of Scott's Keeters Corporation. Him and I did another site visit on Wednesday, and I couldn't believe the job that they have to clear that whole property. They are giving a tremendous amount of acreage to the city of Northampton. Very happy about that. Also, while I had that site visit, 2 of my residents on Severn Way walk their dogs every day, and they were pleased to have met them. And he actually turned on his computer and showed them the layout and what was going to happen. I feel that, to me, as a city councilor, I always believed, yes, we have a planning board, but I also believe that total communication with the butters are very, very valuable and beyond the streets. And we have done that. 300 and something mailings were done by the company. I didn't have to go around like I usually do and swing them on the doors. Usually I'll do 1,000 or so. But anyways, I think it's going to be a very, very interesting meeting, and I'm happy about this so people can say and what their concerns are. So that's it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilor Moulton.
Thank you. 2 things that I want to mention. One is a reminder that the Committee on City Services will have a special meeting on Monday, next Monday, September 23rd, 5 p.m., and that will be from the City Council chambers here with the usual hybrid option for remote participation. On the agenda, among other things, is the appointment of Police Chief John Cartledge. The other thing I want to mention, I want to report to the entire council. I spent part of my afternoon yesterday at a ceremonial groundbreaking at 737 Bridge Road, the former nursing home that is being converted to affordable housing by Valley CDC. It was a very joyous and upbeat time. There were a number of city officials, well, yes, there were a number of city officials there, but there were a couple of state secretaries, both our legislators, Joe Comerford and Lindsay Sabadosa, were there, and this is a terrific project. It happens to be in Ward 1, but it is a gem for the entire city. It is taking a property that was blighted, vacant for about a dozen years, and now it will become, hopefully within the next year, by the end of 2025, home to 60 families in affordable housing. And it really marries the goal of creating more affordable housing with the city's sustainability goals, carbon neutrality, by using geothermal heating and solar. And it's a terrific project. You know, I think it's a $30 million project. I think it has 19 funding sources from the state, including, and city, including CPA, CDBG money. And I really applaud Valley CDC for taking on this project, working with a myriad of state officials. It's gotten support locally from the council and certainly the planning department under both Carolyn Mish and her predecessor Wayne Fiden, but particularly the leadership of Mayor Sierra has been critical for this. So I applaud you for that. It's coming along very, very nicely, and as I say, I hope within a year we'll see families up there.
Thank you. Counselor Dubs.
Thanks. Just wanted to make the same announcement I made at the last meeting, that this coming Tuesday, September 24th, from 5 to 6 p.m., there'll be a Ward 4 neighborhood circle that I was invited to be the guest speaker at. And so for Ward 4 residents and friends of Ward 4 that would like to stop by and be part of the discussion, we'd be happy to have you, and just feel free to get in touch with me for the location. And then I also have an announcement from our Ward 3 Councilor Rothenberg, who was not able to attend tonight because she has COVID. So I was just going to read her announcement, if that's okay. Oh, here we go. The Support Our Schools Coalition is hosting its back-to-school party a week from Saturday on September 28th from 3 to 5 p.m. at the Florence Civic Center. It's open to the public, and there will be ice cream by Harold's, catering by Cooper's, and music by Mr. Liam. There's no charge. The whole event is free, and the snacks are for everyone. This is just an opportunity to regroup after the summer and get back to work on advocating for fully funded public schools. The event is also a thank you to all the wonderful businesses who are showing support for public school funding, and of course a big thank you to our teachers and staff. Come on out and party. We would love to see you. And again, that's Saturday, September 28th from 3 to 5 p.m. at the Florence Civic Center. Thanks.
Thank you. Mayor Shara.
Good evening, councilors. Got a few announcements. Let's try and do them in order. So first up, we of course have the Doozy Doo this Saturday. So Doozy Doo will be this is hosted by Northampton Neighbors, will be stepping off at 11 a.m. from 33 Holly Street, and will be coming up through Main Street and then turning on to South Street. It is a fabulous event, so I encourage everyone to come and participate in that. And then we have the Jazz Fest is Friday, September 27th and Saturday, September 28th. That's Northampton Jazz Festival will bring over 50 musicians from around the world for 2 days of jazz performances scheduled throughout downtown Northampton. So to get more information about that, go to northamptonjazzfest.org. And also that weekend, there's the League of Women Voters 74th annual book sale. So this is Saturday, September 28th. At Smith Vocational and Agricultural High School. This is from 9 to 4, although there is an early bird special entry from 8 to 9 a.m. that with a $10 donation to the League of Women Voters, you can get in early and start going through the books. And excitingly, there will be a banned book section this year at the League of Women Voters book sale. And then on October 8th, Finance Director Nardi and Principal Assessor Dotrell will be doing the annual presentation that they do on personal property tax exemptions for older adults. That's going to be 1 p.m. at the Senior Center in the Great Room. So thanks.
Thank you. Can I do one more announcement? Okay. I noticed that since Councilor Elkins is not here, there will be a Legislative Matters meeting on September 30th at 5:30 p.m. Where we'll be taking up likely an item we're referring tonight and the housekeeping changes to our zoning ordinance. And you're requesting a recess? I am. Okay. We'll try for 5 minutes. It might be longer given how the bathrooms work here. So try to come back at 7:35. You ready to give a countdown? We're back. And we were in the middle of announcements. Are there any other announcements from councilors of the mayor? Okay, seeing none, we'll move to the consent agenda. I'm going to read the consent agenda and ask if there are any items to remove from it for discussion. There are the minutes of September 5th, 2024. Approve 24.109, the National Grid poll petition for Hatfield Street. Approve 24.129, National Grid Verizon poll petition for Garfield Avenue. Approve 24.130, National Grid Verizon poll petition for Turkey Hill Road. Approve 24.131, National Grid poll petition for Conn Street. 24.133, in order to authorize payment of a prior year bill to Archive Social in second reading. 24.148, appointments to various committees for referral to city services. To the Community Preservation Committee, Debin Bruce to fill a vacancy. To the Historical Commission, Hannah Ray, taking the place of Barbara Blumenthal. And also to the Historical Commission, Douglas Thayer to fill a vacancy. To the License Commission, Amy Kaylane, taking the place of Helen Kahn. Those are the items on the consent agenda. Are there any removals? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Move to approve. Second.
Motion made by Councilor Labarge and seconded by Councilor Clemmer to approve. No discussion, so roll call, please.
Councilor Jarrett.
Yes.
Councilor Clemmer.
Yes.
Councilor Labarge.
Yes.
Councilor Maori. Yes. Councilor Moulton.
Yes.
Councilor Perry.
Yes.
And Councilor Dodds.
Yes.
Okay, that passes unanimously. So we're up to financial orders on first reading. First one is 24.138, in order to suspend parking fees on certain days. And which certain days might those be, you ask? They are Saturday, November 23rd, which is known as Bag Day. Friday, November 29th, Black Friday. Saturday, November 30th, Small Business Saturday. Tuesday, December 24th, Christmas Eve. And Tuesday, December 31st, New Year's Eve. Is there anyone from the mayor's office who would like to speak to this?
It's fairly self-explanatory. We do this every year. This is just, a way to help encourage people to come down on these important shopping days and shop locally downtown.
Thank you. Any discussion among councilors? Then we can either refer this to the Finance Committee or to the consent agenda of our next meeting.
I'd like to make a motion to move this to the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Labarge and seconded by Councilor Moulton to refer to the consent agenda of our next meeting, which actually I meant to say in announcements is on Tuesday, October 1st. It is 2 days earlier than usual, so as not to conflict with Rosh Hashanah. So that's, again, at 6:30 p.m., Tuesday, October 1st. So we have that motion. Any discussion on it? Okay, roll call, please, on referral of this item to the consent agenda.
Excuse me, Councilor Clemmer.
Yes.
Councilor Labarge.
Yes.
Councilor Maori.
Yes.
Councilor Moulton.
Yes.
Councilor Perry.
Yes.
Councilor Dodds.
Yes.
And Councilor Jarrett.
Yes. So that passes unanimously and will appear on the consent agenda of our October 1st meeting. Next is 24.141, in order to appropriate fiscal year 2025 Community Preservation Act funds for community preservation purposes. And this isn't actually appropriating it for any use yet. That first, the Community Preservation Committee needs to consider all the applications, and then they'll make recommendations for us. But it is appropriating it for this purpose. And I believe we have Sarah LaValle with us, who is our community preservation staff person. And would you be able to make Sarah a co-host? Welcome, Sarah.
Touchpad wasn't working well. I think she is.
Are you with us? Yes. Do you have anything to add? We can see you. We can't yet hear you. I'm not sure. Can you hear us, Sarah? Because we do see your video. I'm guessing not.
Some kind of technical difficulty.
Okay. Well, are there any questions from counselors for Sarah LaValle?
So I was having
There we go.
audio difficulties here. I'm sorry about that. I kept getting muted and unmuted.
No worries. Well, welcome. And I just asked if counselors have any questions, but is there anything you'd like to say about this order?
So this order is something that's done annually to set aside expected CPA revenues over the coming fiscal year to allow those funds to then be expended on CPA projects. We're setting aside about 11% of the expected revenue into each of the accounts: open space, historic preservation, and affordable housing. That just allows us to easily show to the Department of Revenue that we're meeting those minimum expenditures, but it doesn't relate to the actual anticipated expenditures on each of those project categories.
Great, thank you. I did have a question. I see it. We're also setting aside principal and interest for various bonds. I was curious how many years left we have on there. I see 3 bonds: the Bean Farm bond, the Florence Fields bond, and the Pulaski Park 2 bond.
Yeah, so those are in the process of being spent down. I think we are down to the final year or 2 on those. I have to pull up the debt schedule to get the exact payment, but there isn't much left on any of those bonds.
Great, good to know.
And this also does not reflect the bonding for the pickleball that was approved by council at the last round in the spring. That will start in the next fiscal year.
Okay. Thanks. Anything else on this order?
You answered it.
All right. Then would entertain a motion either to refer to finance or to the consent agenda of our
Yes,
next meeting.
I'd like to move this to the consent agenda, please.
Second?
A motion made by Councilor Labarge and seconded by Councilor Moulton to refer this to the consent agenda of our next meeting. Any discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Councilor Labarge.
Yes.
Councilor Maori.
Yes.
Councilor Moulton.
Yes.
Councilor Perry.
Yes.
Councilor Dubs.
Yes.
Councilor Jarrett.
Yes.
And Councilor Clemmer.
Yes.
All right, that passes unanimously. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
Bye.
Next is 24.142, in order to authorize payment of prior year invoices. And there are several. Director Nardi, would you like to speak to this?
Yes, thank you. Good evening. These are prior year invoices that were found to not have been paid. They are for modern pest services at the Northampton High School. So the emails were not being sent to Northampton Public Schools. They found out that they weren't receiving them. It wasn't their error, it was the vendor's error. So now we have these in front of us, and we're asking for you to allow the schools to pay them now.
Great, thank you. Any questions from counselors? I'd entertain a motion to to refer or to finance or the consent agenda?
Move to refer to the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Maori and seconded by Councilor Labarge to refer this to the consent agenda of our next meeting. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilor Maori.
Yes.
Councilor Moulton.
Yes.
Councilor Perry.
Yes.
Councilor Dobbs.
Yes.
Councilor Jarrett.
Yes.
Councilor Clemmer.
Yes.
And Councilor Labarge.
Yes.
Okay, that also will appear on the consent agenda of our next meeting. Next, we have two related orders, 24.143, an order to authorize fire department gift fund expenditure for smoke detectors and lock boxes, and then also 24.144, an order to authorize fire department gift fund expenditure for a refrigerator. As propose that we take these as a group. Would you like to speak to it?
Yes, I was actually going to try and speak to them as a group, so I like that proposal. These are both requests from the fire chief to use these funds for these purposes. So I don't know if you remember, the Safe at Home program is a grant-funded program that the Fire Rescue has been doing for a few years. Incredibly, incredibly successful and popular. It helps older adults with some sort of training of things to look for, and also they go through their homes and check things, including checking their carbon dioxide detectors, and can put lock boxes on their homes so that they can access those homes quickly in the case of emergency. And it's been so popular. So they're asking, so popular that they have run out of the detectors and the lock boxes, and they would like to purchase some more. And then the fridge at Main Fire is seen a lot of use and is on its last legs, and so they would like to replace that one, and with a brand new one.
And these are both being expended from a gift account, so these are donations that the fire department has received.
Yes, people often make donations to the fire department.
Thank you. Any questions? Councilor Labarge.
I have used this program many, many times. It is excellent. I bring them into people on my ward. I tell people in the city about it to become safe. You know, the smoke detectors, the key locks, all that. It's unbelievable. And how could we ever say no to this?
Yes, it's been a very, very popular program. I don't remember, a couple years ago, we actually did an appropriation in, I think it was 22, because it was so popular that that they blew through the grant, but still had requests. So we did undesignated fund balance appropriation to them one year to kind of continue that program. Yes.
To be safe.
Yes. Yeah, we want every older adult who wants to take advantage of this program to be able to do it. So.
The refrigerator, I could see that. They probably use it 24 hours a day.
They do use it 24 hours a day.
These are big guys and girls.
And yeah, it's an around-the-clock working station. So,
exactly.
Yeah, they do.
Any other questions or discussion? All right, then I would propose that we move these as a group to the, I'll make a motion, we move these as a group to the consent agenda of our next meeting.
Make a motion to send it as a group to the consent agenda.
Thank you. I actually made the motion, which is
I
not
didn't
how
hear
I
it.
usually do it, but,
Okay.
so motion made by Councilor Jarrett and seconded by Councilor Moulton to move these as a group to the consent agenda. Any discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Councilor Moulton.
Yes.
Councilor Perry.
Yes.
Councilor Dobbs.
Yes.
Councilor Jarrett.
Yes.
Councilor Clemmer.
Yes.
Councilor Labarge.
Yes.
And Councilor Maori.
Yes.
All right, those will appear on the consent agenda of our next meeting. That's all the financial orders, so we're on to regular orders. We have 24.147, an order authorizing temporary construction easements for Rocky Hill Greenway. So this is the third time councilors who have been with us for a while or may have noticed that we adopted these, actually, yeah, in this year, to reflect a slight adjustment that Mass DOT made to the area of taking and to correct and update the references to the temporary construction easements. So this is, Mass DOT continue saying multiple times, actually, can you change it just a little bit? We need it a different way. So there is a request for 2 readings tonight. This has basically been before us before, and these are minor changes to a previously approved order.
I move to suspend the rules for 2 readings tonight.
Second.
Second it.
Motion made by Councilor Moulton and seconded by Councilor Maori to suspend the rules and allow us to vote tonight. Any discussion? Okay, roll call, please, on suspension of rules.
Councilor Perry,
Yes.
Councilor Dobbs,
Yes.
Councilor Jarrett,
Yes.
Councilor Clemmer,
Yes.
Councilor Labarge,
Yes.
Councilor Maori,
Yes.
and Councilor Moulton.
Yes.
Okay, the rules have been suspended. We may vote tonight on this. And is there any further discussion, or I would entertain a motion to approve?
The only question I had, Council President, is there any adjustment to the payment? Payment for these easements?
So I see on, let's see, on the order of taking itself, the first document referenced on page 5, there's a listing of the payments. We could compare those to the previous order. The last one was March 21st. Yes, there is a change. So it was for the first parcel. Gosh, they're in various orders. Looks like the numbers of the parcels may have also changed, but in any case, there are changes to the payments.
Okay, so, which is fine, we're only talking about $340 total, but I just want to make it clear then that in addition to the minor adjustments are both to the layout, I assume, of the easements, and as a result of that, there will be a minor adjustment in the payments that are being made for these temporary easements. And in any case, we're not appropriating any money because it's all coming from the Rocky Hill Greenway Fund.
Yeah.
Correct. Okay.
Thank you for that clarification. Are there any other questions about this order? Was there a motion on the floor to approve? I don't think.
Just to suspend.
Okay. I'd entertain that motion.
Move to approve?
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Maori and seconded by Councilor Clemmer to approve this taking for temporary easements. Any further discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Councilor Dobbs,
Yes.
Councilor Jarrett,
Yes.
Councilor Clemmer,
Yes.
Councilor Labarge,
Yes.
Councilor Maori,
Yes.
Councilor Moulton.
Yes.
And Councilor Perry.
Yes.
So that passes unanimously. And there is an order of taking that we all need to sign after the meeting, so make sure to stick around and do that. Our second order is 24.149, an order to approve an exemption for Mary Ann McKenna, contract for personnel services. And are you able to speak to this?
Sure, we've done this a few times recently. This is just an exemption that needs to be approved for. In this case, Ms. McKenna is a substitute at times at an MPS, but also wants to hold a position in Parks and Rec as a leader in the schools out and youth programs. So we, the appropriate disclosures have been filed, and then the council just needs to vote to allow this exemption for her to sort of hold both those positions.
And is there any time constraint, or it's fine for us to vote on this on October 1st?
I am not aware of any time constraint. I was not made aware of one.
Okay.
But
Questions? Hi, there's no action we need to take tonight. This will appear on our agenda on October 1st, and we'll vote on it then. Okay, we'll move on to we have 2 more items before the resolution. And ordinances not yet referred. 24.137, an ordinance to amend Schedule 9, off-street parking areas to add 33 King Street lot. This is in first reading. We talked about this, Councilor Clemmer and I are on the Transportation and Parking Commission, and we discussed and positively recommended this item. Is there someone here to speak to it, or should I give a summary?
It would be great if you want to give a summary. I can speak to it a little bit, but I'd love to hear the conversation you had in transportation and parking.
Sure. So the primary addition is the King Street lot, which is the lot behind 33 King Street. This is a parcel that the city is trying to sell, but in the meantime, we would like to get parking revenue from it, so until it is sold, it will become part of the parking system. There'll be a kiosk installed there, and it will be similar to other lots. I'm not exactly sure what Class 1F.
It's 1F, which is, so there's no time limit, so people can park there as long as they want. That's 10 a.m. to 8 p.m., Monday through Saturday, and that's 50 cents per hour.
Great.
And this also would add 2 accessible spaces to the lot.
Yep. It also cleans up, removes the Union Station lot, which was already repealed but was never removed from the code. So are there, so we would need to refer this to legislative matters. Is there any discussion before we refer? Questions? Okay, I'd entertain a motion to refer this to legislative matters.
Move to refer to legislative matters.
I'll second that.
4137.
Motion made by Councilor Maori and seconded by Councilor Labarge, I think, had it?
Yes.
All right. Any discussion on referral? Roll call, please.
Councilor Jarrett.
Yes.
Councilor Clemmer.
Yes.
Councilor Labarge.
Yes.
Councilor Maori.
Yes.
Councilor Moulton.
Yes.
Councilor Perry.
Yes.
And Councilor Dubs.
Yes.
Okay, that passes unanimously, and we're going to take that up at the September 30th meeting of Legislative Matters. So our last ordinance, 24.132, an ordinance relative to parking on Barrett Place. This is in second reading. We discussed this 2 weeks ago. We chose not to refer it to Legislative Matters, and so now it's here up for a vote. And this is in Councilor Clemmer's ward. Did you want to speak to it at all?
Yeah, we just had some positive people speaking about it positively at Transportation and Parking, and it's been in place, the no parking on either side since 1982, and the needs of the neighborhood have changed, and people now have kids who drive that live there and need more parking spaces, and they don't feel it's going to be a problem with people just leaving their cars there anymore. So we're going to open up one side of the street for parking now.
At night, because,
Yes,
before
at
it was only allowed
Right.
during...
There's no parking in the overnight, so now you can park there anytime.
Great, thanks. Any questions or further discussion? Entertain a motion to approve.
Vote to approve. Second.
Motion made by Councilor Labarge and seconded by Councilor Clemmer to approve. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilor Clemmer.
Yes.
Councilor Labarge.
Yes.
Councilor Maori.
Yes.
Councilor Moulton.
Yes.
Councilor Perry.
Yes.
Councilor Dubs.
Yes.
And Councilor Jarrett.
Yes. Okay, that ordinance has been approved. Park all night. That brings us to resolutions. And the first resolution is 24.146, a resolution declaring Northampton a sanctuary city for transgender and gender diverse people. This is in first reading, and this is sponsored by Councilors Clemmer and Maori. And would you like to read it?
Yes. Yeah, let's read it. Should I start? Be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Northampton and City Council assembled as follows. Whereas, wait a second. Could you just switch it up a little bit? Sure. Thanks.
You want to read my hard copy?
Oh, yeah, okay. Thank you. Whereas in 2024, there are currently 652 anti-trans bills introduced that seek to block transgender and gender nonconforming people from receiving basic health care, education, legal recognition, and the right to legally exist. This is more than any other year on record, according to the Trans Legislation Tracker. That makes this the 5th consecutive record-breaking year for the total number of anti-trans bills considered in the U.S. You want to take one, or just a few, or?
Back and forth, yeah. Whatever you want to do.
Go ahead.
Okay. Whereas nearly half of these bills specifically target transgender youth and their families, resulting in reports of attorneys general from Tennessee, Missouri, Indiana, and Texas demanding access to medical records to conduct investigations and threaten patients and their families. And
whereas the governor of Texas has signed into law an executive order declaring gender-affirming medical care of any kind to be child abuse and subjecting families to unprecedented and invasive child welfare investigations that would potentially remove transgender children from their homes. And
whereas these bills aim to limit the rights of transgender, gender diverse, and non-binary people by criminalizing gender-affirming health care, restricting use of public bathrooms, forcing teachers to out their students, and preventing youth from participating in school activities. And
whereas other states are seeking to repeal previously passed bans on the abusive practice of conversion therapy and outlaw school curriculums that affirm and inform young people about diverse gender and sexual orientation and identities. And
whereas transgender immigrants, refugees, and asylees also face additional persecution due to their immigration status. And
whereas fatal violence against transgender and gender diverse people disproportionately impact the BIPOC community, making up 85% of all victims identified since 2013. Almost 2/3, 61.8% of all victims have been Black trans women.
Whereas multiple healthcare institutions across the country have scaled back or have considered scaling back gender-affirming healthcare services in response to legal challenges, perception of legal risk, harassment, or threats of violence. And
whereas studies from numerous institutions, including Stanford and Yale universities, have shown that gender transition, including access to gender-affirming healthcare, improves the overall well-being of transgender people, and access to gender-affirming health care for youth is associated with better mental health outcomes and lower risk of suicide. And
whereas, as of the date of this legislation, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts law does not restrict access to gender-affirming health care and bans insurance exclusions for gender-affirming health care. And
whereas the Commonwealth of Massachusetts passed Bill H1190, an act relative to abusive practices to change sexual orientation and gender identity in minors in May of 2019, which bans harmful and abusive conversion therapy practices. And
whereas the Commonwealth of Massachusetts passed Chapter 127 of the Act of 2022, which protects individuals seeking sanctuary from out-of-state prosecution and explicitly prohibits law enforcement agencies from knowingly making or participating in the arrest or extradition of an individual pursuant to an out-of-state arrest warrant based on another state's law against receiving gender-affirming health care in Massachusetts. And
whereas, as recognized in MGLC
11L and a half. Access to gender-affirming healthcare services is a right secured by the Constitution and laws of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And
whereas as a result of anti-transgender legislation, many individuals and families are relocating to states such as Massachusetts that are more accepting and offer more inclusive services. And
whereas healthcare professionals providing gender-affirming healthcare and persons seeking or receiving care or assisting another individual who is seeking or receiving care in the city of Northampton should be protected from attempts to impose criminal punishment, civil liability, administrative penalties, or professional sanctions based on the laws of other states when gender-affirming healthcare is lawful in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and meets standards for good professional practice. And
whereas the city of Northampton holds the long-standing value of being a welcoming, inclusive, and safe city for all, and has consistently declared its commitment for furthering transgender equity and supporting its growing transgender community with the following legislation: a resolution in support of Massachusetts House Bill 380. 10, adding gender identity as a protected category to anti-discrimination laws in employment, housing, education, and public accommodations, August 18, 2011. A resolution to affirm the city's non-discrimination policy and in support of the equality of access in public places, May 19, 2016. A unanimous vote by the Northampton School Committee to formalize into policy its commitment to ensure for students and employees non-discrimination on the basis of transgender and gender nonconforming status, August 10, 2017, and a resolution in support of H. 3126, an act providing for gender-neutral designation on state documents and identifications, and S2282, an act relative to gender identity on Massachusetts identification, March 14, 2022. And
whereas Trans Health, the first standalone trans medical and mental health care organization in the nation, is located here in Northampton and provides gender-affirming health care, serving the needs of an estimated 20,000 trans and gender-diverse individuals from all over New England. And
now, therefore, be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Northampton hereby reiterates its commitment to transgender rights and equal protections for transgender community members, and declares itself a sanctuary city and a place of safety for transgender people.
Therefore, be it resolved that the City of Northampton recognizes the importance of gender-affirming health care as a matter of health, privacy, and equality, and to ensure, to the greatest extent permitted by law, that those rights are upheld for all residents and visitors within the City of Northampton.
Therefore, be it resolved, the City of Northampton hereby maintains it should be the policy of the City of Northampton that no city resources, including but not limited to time spent by employees, officers, contractors, or subcontractors while on duty, or use of city property, shall be utilized for detaining persons for solely seeking or providing gender-affirming care, including gender affirmation surgery or gender hormone therapy. And
therefore, be it resolved, the City Council of Northampton hereby maintains it should be the policy of the City of Northampton that no city resources shall be utilized for cooperating with or providing information to any individual or out-of-state agency or department regarding the provision of lawful gender-affirming health care or gender-affirming mental health care performed in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And
therefore, be it further resolved that the administrative assistant of the City Council shall send a copy of this resolution to State Senator Joe Comerford, State Representative Lindsay Sabadosa, Northampton Mayor Gina Louisa Chiara, Northampton Health and Human Services Commissioner Meredith O'Leary, Northampton Police Chief John Cartledge, Interim President and Chief Operating Officer of Cooley Dickinson Hospital Deborah H. Rogers, Trans Health CEO Joan Irwin, and Tapestry CEO Mavis Nimmo.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Great job.
Which would the sponsors like to speak to the resolution?
I was just thrilled when Councilor Maori approached me with this, and and to be part of it. I think it's so important for our community and for the people here, and to feel safe and included. And I'm just really excited to be working on this, and hopefully it passes. And thank everybody for coming today, too, who spoke about this.
Yes, thanks to everyone who spoke. It's really no little thing for transgender folks to come and speak. It's, it's a big deal, and so I find just that moving. And thanks to Scotia McGilvray, who nudged us to get this, to start this resolution and make it a sanctuary city resolution. Deb and I have known each other for a while because we worked on women's issues and reproductive health rights, and this is a natural segue because this is what's happening, is the attack on bodily autonomy, and to me they are very fluidly related. They speak to the same kind of oppressive forces, and so I'm very concerned. And it's the timing of this is not lost on us with the elections right around the corner. And I think we need to do all we can, and we need to really speak very proactively to our community and let them know that we hear, we've heard you, we see you, and we will do everything we can to protect your basic rights and to be a welcoming place for you and your family. I heard what folks were saying about the false sense of safety, concern about proclaiming yourself a safe place. I get it. I hear that. Well, I see this resolution as a jumping off point, a way of making, kind of declaring our aspiration to the community and our expectation of our city government and our employees. And I think it needs to be said out loud, and I think we've done that. And I think we need to, of course, do more. And Deb and I have, and the mayor are in discussion about that. But I think we needed to say this out loud first and put this in place and set this intention. So, just hearing the word tonight, domestic refugee, it just, I don't know, that was like, wow. I wanted to almost go like, oh no, that's not what's, that's what's going on. Like, it's hard to hear that, and it's true, that people are having to seek refuge here, and they will come to Northampton, they will come to Massachusetts, and they have. So, I see this as that, and I just, I didn't prepare at all tonight, because every time I did, I started to cry. It's so hard to think about what people are going through, and it's trans folks and people, family members, and it's daunting, and yet we have each other, and we have to see what we do have. And I feel so fortunate to be in this community, have this supportive mayor and this council to come here and not be afraid to bring this here and to have this conversation and to say it out loud that we are here for our community and for our transgender community members.
And I just want to add a couple things. Rachel and I have been doing rallies for a while, and it's really, they were great. They got people, together, and, it felt like you were doing something. But now, as a counselor, it's my first term, I could really do something and make a difference in our city. And I'm really proud of this resolution. And I'm proud of our city that people do feel safe coming here. And we do have a supportive mayor and supportive people around that are welcoming. And also, when I first came out in the early 80s, the first thing I was told was, nobody needs to know, don't tell anybody. And, it's a lousy way to live. And I think we should all be able to come out and be who we are and not have to hide. So I applaud everybody for coming here tonight and speaking and being who you are.
Thank you both. Other counselors, Councilor Lavarge.
Yes, I want to thank Councilor Rachel Maiori and Debbie Clemmer for doing this resolution. It's a shame to have We're a sanctuary city, and I'm hearing, reading this resolution. I'm taking it very serious here. That some of the people are feeling possibly unsafe in our city. It bothers me because I do have friends with children in school going through of who they are. And I want to make sure that everybody here, everybody living in this city, I've lived here all my life, that they will be protected and they will be safe. They will not be threatened at all. They should be able to come here and live and feel safe and be able to walk around, not be harassed by anybody. A lot of them need to be pretty educated about what this is all about. And I'm glad about this. We have this protection, and I'm taking it by heart because there's people that I know in this city that are uncomfortable. And I want to thank you two counselors for making this happen. And I know even our governor, our mayor, no matter who the mayor was, David Narkowitz, Mary Claire Higgins, if this had come aboard, they would have supported this 100%. So I want you all to know, and everybody else, if they're listening tonight, that we have a mayor here, we have a sanctuary city, you have counselors who care, even previous counselors. We all care that you'll be safe, you will not be in harm, and we'll make sure about that. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being vocal. I'm hearing, and I think I care about it like all the other counselors and many people in this city. And you know if there is a problem, you know where to go. We have a mayor, you have counselors, we're here to help. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor.
Thank you.
Counselor Moulton.
Thank you. I will echo Councilor Labarge's remarks and first thank Councilors Maori and Clemmer for bringing this forward. And this is a very important declaration. And moreover, I want to thank the many people who spoke tonight, who gave very personal and powerful testimony about why this is so important. And it is critical that we, as Councilor Maori has suggested, that we use this as a jumping off point and we declare our support for Northampton being a sanctuary city for trans and gender diverse people, but that we also make sure that these resources are there to help make them feel safe. I also think that there is a greater context to this, as the resolution notes. There are many states that continue to take rights away from transgender people. We only have to look to New Hampshire, to our north, where in July the governor signed into law legislation that prevents transgender girls from participating in girls' sports in public schools. Now nearly half the states in the country do that. So it cuts, we heard a lot about concerns about impact on health care, which is obviously very important, but it really cuts across all kinds of activities in life. And I do think that to counter that, it's important for local communities to make this statement and to, as someone suggested, just sort of be the pebble that starts that wave. So I'm very happy to support this resolution.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Dubs.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Councilor Clemmer and Councilor Maiori for putting forth this resolution, and for all the people that spoke tonight. There was one comment in particular I thought was really powerful. Small towns can make a big statement, and I thought that was really amazing. And yeah, I think I just want to say that it's an honor to be part of the council, and I'm very proud to be part of the council during this time when we're doing this, and to be part of a city that is putting forth these efforts to make our city a sanctuary city for transgender and gender diverse people. And so I just 100% support this resolution, and want to thank you councilors for putting it forth.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Perry.
Well, I want to also extend my thanks to the councilors who put forth this resolution, as well as all the people who attended. And I'm not going to rehash what everyone else said, but I have often said that our greatest resources are people, and I'm so thankful that we are being inclusive to all people here, and this goes a long way for that. And as Councilor Dove said, I am proud to be on a council that is so inclusive. So thank you all. Thank you for this community. I'm lucky to live here.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll second what other councilors have said, and I just think you've both put so much work and thought and care into this resolution. It's so evident. So, thank you for bringing it forward, and thank you for the policy requests and for having those conversations with Mayor Shara, and I hope that those can also come together so that we can have a unified legislative and executive position on this. Mayor Shara, would you like to speak at all?
No, I told both counselors that I'd be really happy to work with them on an executive policy order that goes with this to bring the actual policy forward for the city and city employees. So thank you.
That's so exciting. Thank you so much, Mayor.
Yeah, I echo. This is beautifully and very heartfelt in its writing. So well done.
Great. Thank you. So this isn't first reading, so we don't vote tonight. It will come again on October 1st, and it will be in second reading, and we'll vote that night. Unless there's a desire to suspend rules. That would
Yeah.
great. And we'll have another opportunity for public comment as well on October 1st. How's everyone doing? Do we need a recess?
Bye.
Okay. We'll take a short recess. Be back, so let's say 8:33. All right, welcome back to the Northampton City Council. We're in the middle of discussing resolutions. The next resolution is 24.145, a resolution in support of Mass Promise to Invest, equitable public school funding for every child. This is in first reading. It was sponsored by Councilors Stubbs, Labarge, and Rothenberg. And we'll also, they requested to recognize community sponsors Meg Robbins and Jesus Leva, who will also be speaking to the resolution. Would you like to read the resolution?
Yeah. I'm going to start, right?
Great. Could you turn your mic on? All right.
There we go. Whereas, 8-24-145, a resolution in support of Mass Promise to invest equitable public school funding for every child. Whereas, we are asking for the Commonwealth to increase state aid to the Northampton Public School District by $3 million annually by changing the funding formula for school choice tuition and charter school tuition. Whereas $3 million is the amount for school choice and charter schools that has been annually deducted from Northampton State School Aid as of the 4-year 2024. Whereas this resolution addresses school funding inequity in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and its effect on Northampton specifically, it joins similar petitions and many other impacted communities in the Commonwealth. Whereas in this resolution is to ask the Commonwealth of Massachusetts to change the way that school choice tuition is funded by underwriting the municipal cost of sending tuition for low and moderate income cities and towns. Whereas Northampton has lost millions of state aid dollars in equitable Chapter 70 funding.
Whereas in 2002, Northampton's Chapter 70 aid amount was $8 million. That amount remains static. In 2023, Northampton's allocation of Chapter 70 funding hovered just below $8 million despite enormous changes in inflation and a 20-year growth in district facility, insurance, transportation, and personnel costs. Whereas, even as the Commonwealth has made sweeping changes to Chapter 70 funding calculations, they have acknowledged that education costs are rising much faster than inflation, or the 2.5% that is the allowable legal increase in local property taxation. For many years, including 2022 and 2023, the state has dictated a need for Northampton to increase its local contribution to school funding by 5% or more, even as Northampton's increase in Chapter 70 funding for those same years is barely over 2%. Whereas, under Massachusetts' current funding system, for each student who leaves their public school district for a charter school, almost all of the city's per capita public school funding follows the student to the charter school, including the percentage of Northampton provides its public schools above what the Commonwealth legally allocates. For each student that leaves the Northampton Public School District for another public school district, a smaller but significant portion of public funding follows each student to their school choice district. Whereas the current system costs public schools much more in tuition payments than it saves them by educating fewer students. Because students choice out from different classrooms, grades, and schools across a public school district, the costs to operate the public school districts remain relatively unchanged, making it difficult for districts to proportionally shrink spending in response to declining enrollment. Many of the costs associated with running a school district do not scale down and are fixed costs, including maintenance, utilities, transportation, and benefits negotiated in good faith for public employees. Whereas this results in local budgets that are challenged to maintain services and frequently leading to staffing cuts. These cuts further perpetuate a downward spiral caused by loss of students to charter schools and wealthier school districts, and a continued decline in school funding, loss of programming, and increased demand for support staff and services as personalized student needs go unmet in larger classrooms with fewer staff and engaging electives, arts, music, sports, and theater decrease. Whereas this decline in local public school funding most disproportionately impacts our most vulnerable and marginalized students. The Commonwealth has a constitutional obligation to provide an education for all of its children in every city and town through the public schools. Yet the current funding system siphons valuable and necessary public funding disproportionately from low and moderate income public schools. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Commonwealth of Massachusetts can correct this inequity by taking long overdue financial responsibility for charter school and school choice assessments for low and moderate income school districts. And be it further resolved that the City Council of Northampton request our local and state officials to actively support this policy change and send a copy of this resolution to State Representative Lindsay Sabadosa of Northampton, State Senator Joanne Comerford, Northampton Mayor Gina Louise Shera, the Daily Hampshire Gazette, and other media outlets, including Northampton City's social media.
Thank you. Would you like to speak to the resolution?
I sure will. I have to say that when I saw an email of the resolution, I did call Meg Robinson in regards of thanking her for this. I felt that it was very well written, and she asked me if I'd like to be a sponsor. I said yes. It's because of what I believe in here. We have been fighting for years and years for Chapter 70 funding. For years. It's never happened. Times have changed. We have families and we have young children and we have, you know, our youths that are in high school. Graduation is important here. Sports, arts, all of that is important. This is one of the worst budgets I have seen as a city councilor. I wish that we could have done more, and I think we've done what we can. We need the help here, and I think with this language, will really move things for them up there in Boston to realize we are middle class. We have lower class families. We all need to have our children be educated. We care about our families and our children. And I think that this will make some movement here for our city of Northampton. And I think that we're probably just going to have, like the mayor's been trying so hard, Senator Comerford, Lindsay Sabadosa, of trying to get some funding here in this Chapter 70. Even State Rep Peter Cocott, I remember being at a meeting, and he had mentioned about how the city of Northampton, I'll never forget this, it was Pamela Schwartz and a whole bunch of us in there. He said, I'm going to tell you right now, and these were his words. He said, they know they're in Boston, that there is a lot of a group of people here in this city that fight to get that Prop 2.5 pass. He said, I'm just telling you, they know this. And he said, it's because we work really hard because we don't have the funding, right, to make it happen for a Prop 2.5. I think this is the right way to go. I know it's probably going to take some time, but we're pushing it. We're pushing it, just like another resolution we have. We're fighting for something for our families, for our children, and our youth in this city. So that's the reason why I told Meg that I like, and I really do like this whole resolution.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'd just like to echo everything that Councilor Labarge just said, and I'd like to thank Meg Robbins for taking the lead on this amazing resolution. I'm happy to be a sponsor on it, and I think it gives us the opportunity to ask the state to put more money towards charter schools so that we can spend our own local tax dollars on our public schools, which I think will be really helpful and really important and impactful for the future of Northampton and Northampton schools and their children. And hopefully, our future budget seasons will be helped by this, I think. So thank you to Meg Robbins for taking the lead on this, and if she has anything she wants to say, I think that'd be great too. Thanks.
Yeah, I'd be happy to recognize Meg Robbins and Jesus Leyva. They would like to speak to this resolution.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
I'd like to introduce my colleague Jesus Leyva, who spoke to us earlier. Jesus is a resident of Greenfield now, but he was formerly a resident of Northampton. And we work with a small group of concerned citizens in both Hampshire and Franklin County who have really been looking hard at how to approach the state in funding districts like ours in a way that's clear, that's palatable, and that actually has a number attached to it. And Jesus has done a remarkable job of researching pretty much everything I can think of around each district that has expressed concern around it, and particularly around Northampton. And he's going to explain a little bit about why Chapter 70 is really not going to work for us no matter what we do, even if we lifted the cap completely, and why we need to really think about looking to the state to relieve us of the burden of being taxed for services that we are not providing for children here that go to other schools and other districts.
Thank you, Meg, for the introduction and for putting together the writing on the resolution. Since I spoke at public comment, I'm going to try to be really brief and just stick to a couple of very specific talking points. The first one being is that I want to let the councilors know that 49 Northampton residents have already signed on to a petition in support of this resolution that we're going to be sending to school committee. And that change.org petition has only been up for 3 days. That petition joins 2 other petitions, one in Amherst and one in Greenfield, that both have around 100 signatures, with both communities also forwarding resolutions to their school committees in October as well. I also want to say that there are 211 districts across the state of Massachusetts who are minimum aid districts in this year and are not getting additional funding from the Student Opportunity Act this year. One of those districts is actually Boston. So this isn't a rural schools issue. It's not a small communities issue. This is a statewide issue that affects a wide variety of communities. And I think it's also important to understand that Northampton specifically is in a strange position with regard to the state funding formula. Northampton, when you factor for inflation, has not seen any new funding in Chapter 70 funding since the inception of Chapter 70. That is something that I found as a startling fact as I was looking at the funding community by community. Northampton is actually one of the few communities for which that's actually true. If the cap on inflation was increased, Northampton would not see any of that new funding, unfortunately. If there were changes made to the Chapter 70 funding formula, Northampton would likely not see any of that new funding. It's a very strange formula. That's why we're asking for a much more direct approach in underwriting specific costs that are mandated by the state to cities.
And we'll add that charter schools exist in our communities. We have residents who enjoy them. They offer service to students who live here, and they're here to stay. But they were originated by the state as an experiment that would inform our public schools about best practices. And I was a teacher back then, and here in Northampton, and I remember one meeting with one school in Florence once where we talked about best practices. And I don't think that that has ever happened between those schools since then. They're an institution that arrived, and they're here, and they were established as a separate form of education funded by public dollars, not necessarily unionized employees, not necessarily absolutely under the management of the city, but with city dollars. And when we pay, or have to increase what we pay per student here, that money follows students to charter schools. So we do our very best to make sure that we can get to a level that offers our students services, but the more we do that, the less we can offer them here. And we do have that downward spiral where we can't invite children back. So when we reduce the services that we offer here and they get increased elsewhere, it's just a really a difficult place to think about getting out of without support on the state's behalf. This proposal would actually allow our state representatives to approach legislators in Boston and say, okay, forget the formulas, just give us the money. And it would probably be adjusted as a bill in terms of inflation, in terms of what the costs are, the increased costs of running our district, our schools, and our personnel. And that language is not part of this resolution at this point. The resolution is there to ask our state legislators to work with this fundamental idea that we be reimbursed for the costs of sending children out of district that are not in our public schools. And it's something that I think 82% of our state has been behind. They did not approve expanding the cap on charter schools. It was a resounding no, despite the millions of dollars that was spent out of state in order to increase it. If had that happened, we would not have public schools anymore. We would not be able to afford anything. And here we are. So Northampton has an opportunity to be able to step up along with other communities, present this resolution to our state legislators, and hope that it eventually becomes a bill that gets a little bit of noise on Capitol Hill. Jesus, did you have anything to add?
I just had one other comment to add, but we are here to answer any questions that you might have about the resolution too. If you look at Northampton's net school spending over the course of 30 years, you'll see many years where the state recognizes that there is a need to increase funding to the district and is asking Northampton to increase its funding to the district by 9%, but its own increase in funding for Chapter 70 is only 2%.
That's right.
That it doesn't fundamentally make sense, especially since obviously Prop 2.5 exists, and it's impossible to do that without actually asking for an override.
So questions?
Great, thank you both. Counselors?
You're good? Thank you very much, Councilors Stubbs, Labarge, and Rothenberg for sponsoring this. Thank you for your responses, Councilor Maori and Councilor Jarrett. Really appreciate it. Did you have a question?
Yeah, I did. Well, first of all, oh yes, I wanted to thank you. I wanted to thank you for this and for your steadfast dedication to education, Meg, and thank you, Jesus. My question is it based on, I mean, is this a model that's used in other states? I mean, it seems so much clearer to do it this way, but so is this something that that is done in other places?
The number would be different for each community.
Yeah.
So the $3 million for us is the round figure of what would make a difference in terms of what the state takes back.
But the infrastructure of it.
Right, but the structure of the resolution is one that we are hoping will become statewide with different districts. So we're introducing it here in our own neighborhood and then sharing it with districts throughout the state, which are all in the same predicament.
Yeah. I'm sure it will resonate.
I think your question was, are there examples in other states of this kind of approach to dealing with charter school and school choice funding?
I might have an answer to that. I think right now we have to look at what the current structure for the funding is here in Massachusetts. The state currently has a charter school reimbursement program where some portion of the money that we send is in fact reimbursed, and that the money that is already reimbursed was included and deducted from the total amount that we would be asking for. So Northampton actually pays about $3.6 million in charter school and school choice setting tuition assessments, but there's already a reimbursement amount that exists, although it's on a declining schedule. So for the first year that a student leaves for a charter school, they're reimbursed, the city's reimbursed at 100%, and then 60, then 40, and then it just goes down from there. That was something relatively new too. Before there wasn't nearly that much reimbursement, and the state hasn't always fully funded the reimbursement line item. In fact, that was one of the things that was recently passed in the Student Opportunity Act, is making sure that the existing charter school reimbursement line item was fully funded, and for this fiscal year it was. But we have to understand that this is a much smaller amount than the total amount, and it's on a declining it's on a declining schedule, and that the reimbursement amount and the amount that basically the amount that districts send to charter schools versus how much automatic cost savings there is for not having to educate the student, those two things aren't equal. They're not even close. The reality is that when we, again, send students to another school district or to a charter school, the cost savings for not having to educate that student are relatively small, because most of the costs associated with education are fixed, and you can't lay off 1/25th of a teacher or heat 7/10 of a building. It just doesn't work that way.
So did I hear your question about do other states do this?
Or just was there a model that this is drawn
in
from?
In Connecticut, for example, the charter schools, most of them are state schools. So they're state funded. There are some charter schools in Connecticut that are local schools, but the schools committee or the city has to approve those charter schools. So they decide they want to bring the charter school in. On the other hand, that's in discussion in the legislature in Connecticut, because there's a cost to the state to that. They've created something that now has an ongoing cost to the state in addition to providing for public schools, and there's contention around it. Massachusetts did it very differently.
Thank you. Yeah.
I wanted to add, the other thing is, transparency is no small thing, and this is a much clearer way to track and maintain a system like that. So that's definitely a plus.
Yeah, anyone sitting there doing the math for this Chapter 70 funding formula makes your head hurt. And I actually asked a couple of our presenters and Senator Comerford if they knew who was in the room when that formula was created. And no one does. There was no record of it, because it's a legislator, right? They don't have to do open meeting laws. They just do that. But you can just imagine somebody sitting around going, let's make it 80%. Oh, heck, let's make it 85. All right, I'll meet you halfway. And they come up with this number. The number works this number does work for some districts. They do really well out of it. It doesn't work for us. So I'm glad to hear it's clear to you. Hopefully it will be clear to others, and maybe it'll get some traction.
Thank you. Councilor Moulton.
Yes, thanks to the sponsors, and thanks to Meg and Jesus for the work you've done on this. I think, Meg, one important point you made is that the state of Massachusetts has lost sight of the original purpose for charter schools, to try to experiment and then to report back about, as you said, best practices. I don't think we're seeing that, so we've lost that part of the equation, while the other half of the equation is draining money from the public schools. What I particularly like about the work that you've done is approaching this regionally, while you're very specific about each school district and the loss of funds. I think that gathering momentum from a number of communities in Hampshire and Franklin counties, I always think there's strength in numbers when you take that to the legislature. So I appreciate that aspect of this.
Fingers crossed, Dan. It may be a new approach, and it will be something that is a little bit more legible and clearer to many other districts. So your support would be so welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to say a couple things. I want to thank Jesus and Meg for their work organizing events with local leaders. I've had the privilege of attending a couple of them. And I think this is an important contribution to the advocacy that's so needed to fix the Chapter 70 funding formula. And so I look forward to looking at this more closely over the next 12 days. It's not 2 weeks till it comes back and to vote on it. I did have a couple of comments just about the form. So the whereas clauses usually build with facts about the situation, and then the therefore be it resolved is the request. So I would just suggest the first whereas could maybe become a be it resolved, and that the first be it resolved becomes something like, now therefore be it resolved that the Northampton City Council calls upon the Commonwealth of Massachusetts to correct this inequity, etc. And then in the second, be it resolved that the administrative assistant to the City Council send a copy of this resolution to. So those are just a couple of suggestions for you to consider over the next, until our next meeting.
Great, thank you.
She's writing it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Thank you.
Other comments, questions? Councilor Clemmer.
Thank everybody for doing this, and Megan, Jesus. I think this is a good way to go, and we've needed more Chapter 70 money for a really long time. I remember Mayor Shara talking about it at Indivisible when she was Councilor Shara, going to be Councilor at Large, and yeah, I was kind of shocked how little trickled over here to Western Mass. So I think, this approaching it this way with other communities makes a lot more sense of getting us some much-needed money for the schools. So thank you all for doing that.
Great. Okay, thanks, and we'll discuss this again at our next meeting. The last item on our agenda is a report back on Finance Committee discussion with School Committee member Carrie LaBounty. And this would be Councilor Maori.
Yes, so we had our meeting yesterday with Member LaBounty, and it was what I said to her at that time, just suggesting this and passing the motion has gotten us here with a school committee member in council chambers. So it was there was a win already. And so she was very gracious about kind of the path forward. I think she's just kind of trying to get the ball rolling. And so we didn't come to I guess we didn't really come to any large conclusions except for the basic one that we need to think outside the box. We need creativity, and we need to try some attempts at collaboration between council and the school committee, because we all would love to bring the temperature down and not repeat a stressful budget season. So, what I had shared with her then was that I had planned as chair of finance to engage budget and properties from the school committee, and I didn't feel it was either or. I didn't feel like we had to either pursue her motion in the way that she had written it, or do that, or have the established subcommittees meet. So I'm still planning to do that. I have not gotten a chance to talk to Chair Cannon, Foster Cannon, about it yet. That's something I plan to do. We had a discussion about the budget listening sessions and how best to, anticipating school comments, how best to get that information to the school committee. And I believe that we are kind of still in discussion about that, but we will certainly be inviting the school committee members to listen in, and also I will ask if they would like us to present our report basically of comments from our budget listening sessions. So those are kind of a few things in the works, but I'm kind of waiting to see, personally I think if we can engage budget and properties, and I think the more we get together, the clearer it may become what path forward there could be. So that's what my plan is as chair of finance, but I think we still, I think it's still, we couldn't, there were some lingering questions still about what it could look like in terms of open meeting law and staffing, and the same questions we had when we discussed it in full council, and we haven't resolved those concerns. So there wasn't really a no or yes, but I will pursue the established subcommittees, and I think council can think about how we could talk about, whether we would like to have new structures and what those could be. Would anyone else on the Finance Committee like to, actually, Councilor Clemmer, I believe, and Councilor President Jarrett were there if you had any other impressions from what Member LaBounty said, or, yeah.
Councilor Moulton.
I think that was a great summary, Councilor Mayor. I just will add that I think that it's important that the lines of communication have been, I don't think they were ever shut, but they've been expanded, and we're looking for ways. I think we were all in agreement that we're looking for ways to better collaborate, better communicate with each other, and that is happening.
Great, thank you. Okay, looking forward to those joint meeting coming up at some point, and further discussion. Okay, that is the end of our agenda. To entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Labarge and seconded by Councilor Clemmer. Roll call, please, on adjournment.
Councilor Dobbs.
Yes.
Councilor Jarrett.
Yes.
Councilor Clemmer.
Yes.
Councilor Labarge.
Yes.
Councilor Maori.
Yes.
Councilor Moulton.
Yes.
And Councilor Perry.
We're close, Alex.
Councilor Perry, are you still here?
Yes.
Okay, we are adjourned, and thank you all.